Here we go. Bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam, bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat 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 shalom. Join me on page 6, please. Page 6. We enter this sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wanderings, it has endured. A beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. Now we, in our turn, come into this sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak, let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayer. Please join me on page 10 for Hine Matov. Hine matov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov, yai dai 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 dai. Hine matov, yai dai 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 dai. Hine matov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. How good and how pleasant it is that brothers and sisters dwell together. Well, I would like to welcome everybody tonight here in the sanctuary and out in YouTube land at Congregation Ort Safon to our Friday night, December 24th service. And it's a pleasure to have you all here. It's a particular pleasure to have my daughter, Sasha Alexander, and her fiance, Andrei Danilevich, here. And with that, I am going to invite Sasha up to the bima to do the blessing on the candles, or the candle blessing. And please join us on page 2, rise, as we bless the candles, please.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
And let's remain standing and turn to page 5, and Sasha will sing the Kiddush.
Beautiful.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen, amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kadsho b'yahava, uvratzon hinchilanu, zicharon lemahaseh boreshit, ki hu yom techila lemikrahei kodesh, zecher litziat mitzrayim, kivanu v'char Ve'amarta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol hamim. Ve'shabbat adshecha, ve'ahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mikadesh haShabbat. Amen. L'chaim. Please do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
English? No.
you may be seated, everybody. Okay, and you can join me on page 7 as we read, Where Has This Week Vanished? Please join me in reading this. Where has this week vanished? Is it lost forever? Will I ever recover anything from it? The joy of life, the unexpected victory, the realized hope, the task accomplished. Will I ever be able to banish the memory of pain, the sting of defeat, the heaviness of boredom? On this day, let me keep for a while what must drift away. On this day, let me be free of the burdens that must return. On this day, Shabbat abide. Help me to withdraw for a while from the flight of time, contain the retreat of the hours and the days from the grasp of frantic life. Let me learn to pause, if only for this day. Let me find peace on this day. Let me enter into a quiet world on this day. On this day, Shabbat abide. Okay, please turn to page 12, and let's sing Lechuna Ranana together, okay? Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, L'Adonai. Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, L'Adonai. Naria, Naria, Litzur Vishenu, Nichad Mafanav Bitoda. Naria, Naria, Litzur Yishenu, Bizmirot Naria Lo. Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, L'Adonai. Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, Lechuna Ranana, L'Adonai. Okay, let's turn to page 20, and let's sing Lecha Dodi. Lecha Dodi lichrat kala, Panei Shabbat nekabala. Lecha Dodi lichrat kala, Panei Shabbat nekabala. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Panei Shabbat nekabala. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Panei Shabbat nekabala. Shamor v'zechor b'dibur echad, Hishmiyanu elcham yuchad, Adonai echad, Ushemo echad, L'shem ultiferet v'litilam. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Panei Shabbat nekabala. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Panei Shabbat nekabala. I lost my place. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, Gam bim simcha uvtsochola, Tohoch emunei am segula, Boi chala. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Panei Shabbat nekabala. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Panei Shabbat nekabala. Please be seated. Okay. I'd like to read a poem by Alden Solovi. It's called For the Arrival of Shabbat. Well of life, bless my heart with the gifts of Shabbat, the presence of your love in my pulse, your glory in my chest, and your wonder in my breath. Bless my eyes with the gifts of Shabbat, seeing the beauty of the candlesticks, the Kiddush cups, and the chalot. Bless my lips with the gifts of Shabbat, rejoicing in song and prayer, singing melodies ancient and new. Bless my ears with the gifts of Shabbat, hearing hymns and praises, the nigunim of old and blessed words of Torah. Bless my soul with the gifts of Shabbat, awe and thanksgiving, calm and surrender, beauty, righteousness, and peace. Let these gifts descend gently on all your people, Israel, so that together, wherever we may be, in one voice, from the four corners of the earth we sing, Boachem la shalom, come in peace. Malachei HaShalom, messengers of peace. Malachei Elyon, angels of the Most High. And so let's welcome the angels of Shabbat as we turn to page 24 and sing Shalom Aleichem together. Okay. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Barchuni l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Tzedkem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Okay. Please turn to page 26, and let's just read the Chatzi Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'alma divrach hirute, v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon uvyomechon, uvchaye dekol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv, v'yamru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevarach, le'alam u'lamei almaya. Yit barach v'yish tabach v'yit bar v'yit roman v'yit naseh v'yit hadar v'yit haleh v'yit halal shemei dekudisha barichu leila min kol birchata v'rishata tushbachata v'nechamata damiran v'alma v'imru amen. Exalted and hallowed be God's great name in the world which God created according to plan. May God's majesty be revealed in the days of our lifetime, and may the life of all Israel speedily and imminently, to which we say, Amen. Okay, please turn to page 146, and let's rise for the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam vaed. Praise Adonai, to whom praise is due forever. Praise be Adonai, to whom our praise is due now and forever. You may be seated. Okay, let's go to the top of, actually the middle of 147, and let's read the Ma'ariv together. Okay. Adonai, your majesty is proclaimed by the marvels of earth and sky. Sun, moon, and stars testify to your power and wisdom. Day follows day in endless succession, and the years vanish, but your sovereignty endures. Though all things pass, let not your glory depart from us. Help us to become co-workers with you and endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. And then let's turn the page to 148. And here again in the middle, let's read the Ahavat Olam together, please. In each age, we receive and transmit Torah. At each moment, we are addressed by the world. In each age, we are challenged by our ancient teaching. And at each moment, we stand face to face with truth. In each age, we add our wisdom to that which has gone before. At each moment, the knowing heart is filled with wonder. In each age, the children of Torah become its builders and seek to set the world firm on a foundation of truth. Baruch atah Adonai ochev amo Yisrael. Okay, please turn to page 149 and join me in the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. Okay, and let's turn to page 150. And let's read the Ve'ahavta in Hebrew. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol ma'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ela asher anochi mitzavcha hayom al levavecha Vishinantam livanecha vidibarta bam, Vishivtecha bevetecha, Uvlechtecha vaderech, Uvshachbecha uvkumecha, Ukshartam laot al yadecha, Vahayu latotafot bein enecha, Uktavtam al mezazot betecha, Uvi sharecha. Lama'an tizkaru va'atzitem et kol mitzvotai, V'item kiddoshim l'lohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzet etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Okay, so as we all know, that was just pretty much the warm-up. Now we get to the tefillah, and this is where we get an opportunity to pray silently and meditate and think about the week past and just our life ahead of us and how we'd like to see the world be. So this is called the standing prayer, so we're going to stand. And we'll start on page 155, and then we'll end on page 167. When you're done with your meditation or your prayer, please be seated. And then we'll finish off with Oseh Shalom bin Romav in the middle of page 167. Okay, please rise. Adonai sifatai tiftach uhufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Okay. Oh, say shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'akol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'akol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'akol Yisrael. May the one who makes peace in the high heavens make peace for us, all Israel, and all who inhabit the earth. Amen. Okay. So tonight's parashat is called Shemot, from Exodus 1, verses 1 through 6:1. When I read tonight's parashat, I see three primary narratives. First, the story of the enslavement of the Israelites by Pharaoh. The second is a story about the Israelite midwives, Shifra and Pua, and their response to Pharaoh's direct order that they murder all male Israelite children as soon as they are delivered. And finally, the directive from God to Moses that he go to Egypt to free the Israelites. The shortest of these three stories is about Shifra and Pua's defiance of Pharaoh's order. Clearly, this refusal to carry out Pharaoh's demand is done so at a huge personal risk to their own lives. This remarkable act of defiance and deception by these two unremarkable women sets into motion a series of events that will have a revolutionary and transformational effect upon the ancient world. It's the story within the story of the Exodus we don't often hear or read about every year at Passover. But for me, it's the part of tonight's parashat that holds the greatest interest. The Torah is primarily a story written by, of, and about men. Strong and transformational women are mentioned only here and there throughout the Tanakh. And it's my impression the Torah rarely discusses in great detail women's lives, their thoughts, or their actions. This is so in the book of Exodus, which is pretty much entirely the story of Moses, Aaron, the Israelite people in general, and their flight from Egypt. The book of Exodus begins not with Moses' story, but with a brief story of the enslavement of the Israelites, and an even shorter story of the two midwives. While the story of the enslavement of the Israelites is clearly central to the Jewish faith's origin story, it's also clear that the story of Shifra and Pua has an equally important role to play. Let me read verse 1 and most of verse 2 to you from Exodus, and I think you'll see what I mean. And I enjoy this part of the beginning of Exodus because it reminds me of Passover. And you're going to recognize the story from right out of the Haggadah, so bear with me. Okay? These are the names of the sons of Israel who came to Egypt with Jacob, each coming with his household: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah; Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan, and Naphtali; Gad, and Asher. The total number of persons that were of Jacob's issue came to 70, Joseph being already in Egypt. Joseph died, and all his brothers and all that generation. But the Israelites were fertile and prolific. They multiplied and increased very greatly, so that the land was filled with them. A new king arose over Egypt who did not know Joseph. And he said to his people, "Look, the Israelite people are much too numerous for us. Let us deal shrewdly with them so that they may not increase. Otherwise, in the event of war, they may join our enemies in fighting against us and gain ascendancy over the country." So they set taskmasters over them to oppress them with forced labor, and they built garrison cities for Pharaoh, Pithom and Ramses. But the more they were oppressed, the more they increased and spread out, so that the Egyptians came to dread the Israelites. The king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives, two of whom were named Shifra and Pua, saying, "When you deliver the Hebrew women, if it is a boy, kill him. If it is a girl, let her live." The midwives, fearing God, did not do as the king of Egypt had told them. They let the boys live. So the king of Egypt summoned the midwives and said to them, "Why have you done this thing, letting the boys live?" And the midwives said to Pharaoh, "Because the Hebrew women are not like Egyptian women. They are vigorous. Before the midwife can come to them, they have given birth." And God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and increased greatly. Then Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, "Every boy that is born you shall throw into the Nile, but let every girl live." A certain man of the house of Levi went and married a Levite woman. The woman conceived and bore a son, and when she saw how beautiful he was, she hid him for 3 months. When she could hide him no longer, she got a wicker basket for him and caulked it with bitumen and pitch. She put the child into it and placed it among the reeds by the bank of the Nile, and his sister, meaning Moses' sister, stationed herself at a distance to learn what would befall him. The daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe in the Nile. She spied the basket among the reeds and sent her slave girl to fetch it. When she opened it, she saw that it was a child, a boy, crying. She took pity on it and said, "This must be a Hebrew child." Then Moses' sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and get you a Hebrew nurse to suckle the child for you?" And Pharaoh's daughter answered, "Yes." So the girl went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child and nurse it for me, and I will pay your wages." So the woman took the child and nursed it. When the child grew up, she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, who made him her son. She named him Moses. Hannah Pressman is a doctoral student in modern Hebrew literature at New York University. She has presented her research at the National Association of Professors of Hebrew Conferences, and her reviews of contemporary Israeli literature have appeared in Lilith magazine. In a commentary on Parashat Shemot, she says, "Consider then the special position of Shifra and Pua in these initial verses of Exodus. Significantly, the book of Exodus begins with an overt act of political defiance by two women who are themselves serving the enslaved Israelites. Yet these women, seemingly in a subservient position to a subservient people, enter into a high-stakes power play with the king of the ruling nation. This fact in and of itself sets the stage for the eventual and ultimate defiance of Pharaoh by the Israelites." She continues, "Further, it is no coincidence that the midwives are featured players in this episode. In their everyday lives, Shifra and Pua literally aid the birthing process of individual women. In their refusal to obey Pharaoh, they assume a key role in the collective birthing of the people of Israel. Fearing God rather than the political authority of the day, Shifra and Pua are rewarded for their insistence on life rather than death. As the Talmud says, it was the reward of the righteous women of that generation that caused Israel to be redeemed from Egypt." But there is more to this story than just Shifra and Pua. What we see here are a series of decisions that begin with the midwives, Shifra and Pua, defying Pharaoh's order to murder male babies born to the Israelites. But at each subsequent step of this story, that initial decision is compounded by other decisions, all in defiance of Pharaoh's decree and all made by women. Moses' mother decides to give her baby a chance for life by placing him in a wicker basket in the shallows of the Nile. Moses' sister decides to lay close by to see what will happen to the child. Pharaoh's daughter discovers the wicker basket and takes pity on the baby boy. Moses' sister approaches Pharaoh's daughter and offers to find her a wet nurse for the child. Pharaoh's daughter hires Moses' mother to act as the wet nurse. Pharaoh's daughter adopts the child into the royal Egyptian family and names him Moses. The rest of the story, as they say, is history. So what are the lessons we can take away from the story of Shiframpua? One is that small acts of defiance can change the course of history. Another is that seemingly disparate decisions can have huge consequences. And finally, even in the Hebrew Bible, no matter their ethnicity or how humble their station in life, women are a force to be reckoned with. Another example of great courage and the significance of acts of defiance brings to mind the story of Queen Esther. While her story isn't part of the Tanakh, she too shows extraordinary bravery and courage, and through her actions saves the Jewish people of Persia. And here's the truth of it. There have likely been as many women as men throughout history who have actively fought oppression. Most, however, unlike Shiframpua and Queen Esther, have done so anonymously. The History Channel website has a great web page titled Fierce Revolutionary Women Through History. It states that contrary to popular patriarchal narratives, women have always played a vital role in revolutionary uprisings. Throughout history, women have fought against regimes they perceived as oppressive, either with the pen, the podium, or their own fists. To name just a few: Mercy Otis Warren during the American Revolution, Claire Lacombe during the French Revolution, Margarita Neri during the 1910 Mexican Revolution, Qiu Jin leading up to the 1911-1912 revolution against the Qing dynasty in China, Ezra Abdel Fattah, an Egyptian political activist during the 2011 revolution against Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak. These are women like Shiframpua who worked in relative obscurity and at great personal risk for revolutionary change and freedom within their own countries. So during this coming year, and especially during our Passover celebrations, let's remember Shifra and Pua. They played a small but hugely significant role in the exodus from Egypt and the birth of the Jewish people. It was the Jews who established a revolutionary monotheistic religion that became the progenitor religion of Christianity and Islam. Our Jewish religion, whose laws and precepts as to how a civil society should function, irreversibly changed the course of history. And to think, it all started with a pair of nearly invisible midwives named Shifra and Pua. Shabbat Shalom. So please turn back to page 117, and please join me at the top of the page. When justice burns within us like a flaming fire, when love evokes willing sacrifice from us, when to the last full measure of selfless devotion we demonstrate our belief in the ultimate triumph of truth and righteousness, then your goodness enters our lives and we can begin to change the world. And then you live in our hearts and we, through righteousness, behold your presence. Okay, I'd like to read another poem by Alden Solovi. It's called The Axis of Healing. Your heart is the axis of healing, drawing passion and fire from the hot core of the earth, drawing energy and possibility from the pulsing edge of the universe, drawing light from the shadows and the secret brilliance that surrounds us, so that your mind is clear and your body radiates love. Your heart is the axis of healing, drawing empathy from the pain of others, drawing inspiration when you witness sorrow transformed into hope, so that your deeds are pure, your hands are strong and tender, and your life becomes the medicine that heals the world. And now let us turn our prayers to those in our community in need of physical or spiritual healing. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless these members of our community. Markham Becker, brother of Jerome Becker. Robin Cohen. Raul and Manuela da Silva, parents of Rita Becker. Diana Heller. Barbara and Chip Kurtzman. Rick Moss. Dave Podolsky. Elliot Schwarz, brother of Sharon George. Cheryl Schellub. John Sitters. Ellen and Michael Weingarten. Kit Levine, Adam Levine's mother. Margaret Schmidt. May Burns. And it's an opportunity for anyone in the congregation to mention the name of somebody who they feel might be in need of some physical or spiritual healing.
And I'm glad we're taking love it.
And then to all of your family members.
Very good. Send them all comfort and relief speedily in our days, and grant them a complete healing of body, mind, and spirit. Blessed are you, source of life, who helps us to bring light where there is darkness and healing where there is brokenness. Please join me on page 253 as we sing Misha Berach. Misha Berach Avotenu Mechor HaBracha Laimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Mechor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlemeah, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Okay, let's turn to page 282 and rise and join me for the Eleno. Aleinu lashabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer bereshit, shehu noteh shemayim beoshed aretz, umoshav ikaro bashamayim min mol, ushchinatu zo berovei maromim, hu Eloheinu einod, vahanachnu korim, Umishtachavim uvmodim, lifnei melech, malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. You may be seated. Please turn to the top of page 291 and let's read together. It is hard to sing of oneness when the world is not complete, when those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone, and naught but memory can fill the emptiness of their passing leaves behind. But memory can tell us only what we were in company with those we loved. It cannot help us find what each of us alone must now become. Yet no one is really alone. Those who live no more echo still within our thoughts and words. And what they did is part of what we have become. We do best homage to our dead when we live our lives more fully, even in the shadow of our loss. For each of our lives is worth the life of the whole world. In each one is the breath of the ultimate one. In affirming the one, we affirm the worth of each one, whose life now ended brought us closer to the source of life, in whose unity no one is alone, and every life finds purpose. Our thoughts now turn to those who are no longer with us, and for those who are observing the yahrzeit of a loved one. This Shabbat we remember Sophie Field, mother of Ron Field; Rose Sarah Sachs, mother-in-law of Jane Sachs; Maddie Freed, mother of Tally Freed; Marcus Weiss, father of Steve Weiss; Nathan Bernstein, father of Judith Bernstein; Maxine Bernstein, mother of Judith Bernstein; Jeanette Parvey, grandmother of Al Solish; David Frankel, nephew of Steve Weiss; Saul Klein, father of Sylvia Drucker; Tony Bianco, husband of Mary Bianco; Molly Gilbert, aunt of Jane Sachs; Philip Karras, father of Larry Karras. And we take into our hearts all those who have no one to say Kaddish for them. So please turn to page 294 and rise and join me in the saying of the Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah v'alma divra kirute v'amlich malchute v'chayechon u'v'yomechon uvchaye dekol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'izman kariv v'yamru amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mavarach li'alam ul'almei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitabar v'yitroman v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudashah b'richu leila min kol birchata v'yrshrata tushbachata v'nechamata da'amiran v'alma v'yamru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'yamru amen. Osei shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'yamru amen. Please be seated. So we do have some announcements. Birthdays. Wanda Kennard and Gail Podolsky, Sunday, December 26th. Lance Becker and Annette Greco, Monday, December 27th. Beryl Levine, Yale Mogul, and Aiden Ramsdale, Tuesday, December 28th. Happy birthday to all of you. And for anniversaries, there are Larry and Melanie Spielman, Tuesday, December 28th. So before I say a prayer for our country, I'd like to thank all of the people who made this live stream possible tonight. Kira Buhajir, who's running our video feed to our live stream. Thank you, Kira. Nakshon Margalit, Leslie Moss, and last but not least, Rabbi Janice Mayring. And now a prayer for our country. O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation and alert to the care of the earth. May we never be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who have died in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and spirit. Amen, and Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Thank you.